Been driving all along, feel like I'm dreaming. Okay.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. This is Street Apologist Live. I'm your host, Vocab Malone. How you doing? Getting in some very interesting stuff today on what I'm calling the Sunday Special. I think you guys will definitely enjoy it, but I'm not going to do this show alone. With me, I have the one and only Reginald Wells.
Everybody.
All right, brother. Would you like to begin this program with a prayer?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Just everybody bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for the opportunity that you always want to be uplifted and shine through. We thank you for Vocab and for those who've been doing relentless work and preaching your gospel and using apologetics to reach out to so many people. We ask this in your name, Jesus. This is lifting you up and that the truth be told in your name, Jesus. Amen.
All right. Amen. Tell people a little bit about who you are and where you come from, brother.
Hey, my name is Reginald Wells. I am here in good old Powder Springs, what they call Metro Atlanta. My platform is Immersion, and I've been working with youth and young adults for more than 20 years now, whether it's in the capacity of youth and young adult ministry, training youth and young adult ministers, and working with churches, or as a licensed clinician and working with families. And also married and have my own ministry at home with one child by the name of Liliana. So,
What about the apologetics side of things? What's going on with that?
so with that, that's one of the main things is to try to help young people to understand just how important apologetics, especially when you go into the scriptures, such as Peter says, being ready to give a defense of the faith that you believe, is to what you believe, but why do you believe it? And so that's been one of those things of just trying to find ways that young people can apply it. You don't have to be the college person or the person that reads 1,000 books. Understand the basics and know why it's important not only to use apologetics and just a lot of stances, whether it's those basic questions of the who, what, when, where, but then also being able to dialogue with people properly without it becoming a major argument.
So today we are going to talk about somebody who people may have forgotten about, but he was super controversial, super popping for a while.
Yeah.
A former Christian youth pastor is what he said. Who is the guy that made a big splash that we're going to talk about today for our first topic today? Because this definitely relates to urban apologetics. Who is it, Reginald Wells?
This person is by the name of Kevin Wesley. And if many people remembered, he had the Born Winners as well as the Truth Factory. So this is the guy that I honestly thank for actually pushing me to get deeper in the word because of the stuff that he was putting out there. So just like we had our awards the other day from IUIC, I definitely want to give him kudos today. So
you're going to give him an award?
Yeah, I want to give him his props and his awards, because one thing that I always say that those individuals or enemies of the cross and are consistently going out there and attacking Christians, these are the ones that often will keep you either sharp or will show you like, hey, you've got some learning to do, and nobody knows everything, but be thankful for having those dialogues and sometimes those knockdown drag out fights. So that's
All right.
Kevin Wesley.
So what was Kevin saying that got your attention?
Well, it really kind of started off with the whole thing of course, why Christianity was bad, that this God had to be fake, he was evil, the usual stuff. And a lot of people saw this, and I'm just kind of watching what they were saying, and I'm going, all right, fine. So then he said something about the indoctrination of youth and young adults. Mm-hmm. And I said, hold on for a second, because, this is where I've been doing work at. And so I said, okay, I'm really interested to hear what this guy's got to say. So after a lot of the whole, it's spiritual abuse, it's indoctrination, it's evil. How can you make children do these things? He wasn't the only one that was saying it. It was several other people. And it seemed like at that time, this was around about, I believe, about 2013, 2014, when I, ran into him. It was him and at least 7 other individuals that just seemed to all of a sudden come up to prominence within the Black atheist, black agnostic, black anti-theist community, and it was just growing. And so I did this one meme where I put him on there along with several others that just seemed to be putting some stuff out there, and that's where it all began.
That's where you got tangled up. Shout out to the live chat real quick. We are taking a review of some urban apologetic issues that I've never covered on this channel before. I've never covered Kevin Wesley before. But Reginald Wells has done extensive work in this area. It's a fascinating thing. Former pastor, so he says, leading a lot of people astray with his ideas and claims and whatnot. And I want to give a shout out to the live chat that's here. Nate 2D2D new. Raven is in the house, plus Jesse Walsh. Everybody subscribe to him. And RP Christian, thank you for dropping that link, Nate, so we can see the debate. J3 Apologetics, the one and only. And Yandel with the first super chat. That's right. Thank you very much, brother, for supporting this channel, making it happen. So is this where you want to start showing some of these pictures you sent me?
Yeah, actually, we'll probably go with the meme because that's where, like I said, that's where it started, the whole thing.
All right, give me a second. I'm gonna drop some of these in here as my best. Let me see here. Take this. Trying to drop some of these in here. Give me a second. So do you want me to go in order there?
No, I mean, honestly, to be honest with you, brother, man, it seemed like everything was just here, there, everywhere. And I know there's kind of an order to it because all the way, literally, this was 2014 all the way to about maybe 2017, 2018. But this was the big one. Then there should have been one that I was going to try to send. That's just the one on the left. Yeah, that's the one that I literally posted on the left. And that's what sparked it all.
So you posted this one on the left that said, "Beware of the wolves in sheep's clothing," and what that got that got their attention, or what?
Yeah, and it's just all of a sudden it became this question of, why are we wolves in sheep's clothing? We're the ones that's out here telling the truth about this stuff. And then you had the people that was kind of telling the jokes like, man, I'm up here with Umar Johnson and with Brother Polite, so we must be doing some great stuff. And then, they had the other ones like, why am I not up here? And I'm sitting here going, the point is you don't want to be up here. Do you understand, what's going on here?
So was his response was, I'm not perfect, neither are you. I'm not going to do everything right, neither are you. Don't judge. It makes you just look like and
Yep.
So right here, if you guys look, he's the one in the bottom. Oh, I hear myself. You can put your headphones on or whatever. There you go. He's the one in the bottom right where it says Philippians. He's the one looking with that cocked eyebrow and whatnot. And then he actually put your meme there, shaking my head. Look, Kev, they hating on you. These things are everywhere. I'm not on that picture. I must not be doing enough. Got to step up my game. I'm just here for the Christian rebuttals. True hold on. And here we go. This is my mother. I do not remember, but this is Bag of Bones that she created 35 years ago. What? I don't know. I'm losing track.
Yeah, it was stuff that was on there. If I would have gotten the whole thing, you would have been like, what are they talking about? But that was just kind of the issue. You had people that was just jumping on. And from that point on, I won't even say dialogues, but it was always kind of a back and forth. And my thing was I started pulling some of his videos and saying, hey, I would always approach it from the standpoint of not to say, hey, here's Kevin Wesley doing this. I would always say, hey, Christians, youth, young adults, if someone came to you with this type of argument, this is how you would address it. And so when they would see the video, they would go back and go, well, this guy, Reginald Wells, is saying blah, 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 blah. So apparently there was a video that he put out where he went to a non-black believers conference, and at that time they had him described as ex-pastor, and you started seeing multiple videos of ex-pastor Kevin Wesley. So of course I put in here that I'm like, hey, you keep saying that you're an ex-pastor. I want to know, when did you become a Christian? What was that experience like, and so forth. So the first thing he says is, I was never a former pastor. And that's when everybody went, hold up, time out. Wait a minute. What are you saying? You've been saying this. That's your whole platform. Ex-pastor.
Drop a
debunks
one.
Christianity.
Drop a one in the chat if you remember Kevin Wesley saying he was an ex-pastor.
Yeah, and there's still
Cyber4
video
says
out
that
there now.
polite comment aged poorly. Is there a polite comment on here? I don't see a polite comment on here.
I don't think on this one though.
So that was kind of what kind of things was he saying though that were getting people's attention?
A lot of it again was, of course, the being an ex-pastor, but there was a lot of the stuff where he started using a lot of esoteric approaches to the whole word play off of things like Santa Claus and Satan. Like there's one video he did where he's just flipping all these words back and forth, and the thing that was getting him the attention, I'm seeing more and more young people going, "Oh, that makes sense. Oh, okay, maybe that's what that means." And it was.
So he was offering some bunk interpretations, but people were kind of feeling it.
Yeah.
Okay, here I'm gonna switch us over here and put us on this side. So looks like you're going back with it, man. So this guy probably knows your name.
Well, I mean, it got to a point where, and it may be if they see this tonight, I wouldn't be surprised. It starts right back up again. But at this point, there's maturity and everything else, so it's an understanding a better way to deal with it.
Isn't that what you always wanted? You wanted to get in this beef again, right? Isn't that what you always wanted?
Honestly, it was just the whole thing of, look, guys, and I even said this one time. I said, even if he was to go away, there'll be somebody else. There's always somebody else. So again, it gets back to, can you stand up for the faith that God has given us? And, if not, you got to get out there. You got to learn. You got to get in your word. And even a lot of stuff that he would bring up scripture, that was one of the things that would really get him. He would bring up particular scriptures and say, this is what this meant. And as soon as you would say, here's the context behind that, then you always go back to, well, you need to prove that your God is real. That's always been the go-to. Prove that your God is real. Pray, do something. So it's, yeah.
So you shared the meme. Would you say your meme went viral?
I think maybe. I wouldn't say that it went, of course, it was about 1,000+ views, but it didn't head toward the 2,000 or anything like that. Because usually whenever I would put something out, it was almost like a thing of stop, everybody get on here. Don't let this get out. Don't do this. Don't do that. And there'd be times too where I may post a video or something, and then many of the people that follow him would get on, and you would just see countless posts of this, 100 or more, and you just like, did they do this overnight or something? But that was his whole thing, was to basically say, look, we're just going to just make this guy look bad to take people away from seeing what he's really saying.
Well, I mean, he became pretty popular. He got a lot of followers, and a lot of disaffected people who had once had some kind of church experience seemed to kind of rally around him as if he was, speaking their voice, almost like he was some kind of savior, saving them from the banal, dumb religion of Christianity, and here he was to save the day. But Yondell, he remembers Wesley saying that he was a former pastor. I mean, that's how I was introduced to him when it was in his video. He was talking about it. Ted East remembers Kevin Wesley saying that he was a former pastor. Cyber4 remembers he was saying a former pastor. Alexander remembers he saying he's a former pastor. Lots of people remember saying he's a former pastor. But I see that he just deflects, like you said, and so looks like a lot of your kind of dialogues were you probably felt like you were spinning your wheels.
Yeah, and and honestly, that's kind of the tactic that would use when it would get to, like right here, for example, he says Reginald Wells, heroes, that's the type of stuff.
So is he serious about that?
Yeah, very. In fact, I was looking for one video that he did that I literally had to, it took all my strength to stop from laughing. I couldn't take it anymore. Some people may even remember that video, and that's what really there were two things that got him upset. There was that one, and then there was the one thing that I noticed with Mr. Wesley is that you would see a lot of female individuals that would often talk about going through trauma that occurred within certain churches or whatever. And what he would try to paint the picture of is that this is every church. This is everywhere. So there was one particular female individual that got on, and she did like a post about her being traumatized and so forth. But the thing that she came up with was like, where was God when all this was happening? I prayed and I prayed and I prayed and I prayed. So I addressed it and I asked a particular question, and that's what really brought a lot of. They came, it was we're coming to her defense, and how dare you say this? And you're making it look like your religion is perfect. And from that on, it was like a year of just you know constant going to try to say, oh, you're church. Well, look at this. We got evidence to show that.
Yeah, this is bizarre though that he would act. I mean, this is not even a formulated argument. He rose, see it? Like he really did something there. The live chat remembers though, Alexander says his arguments were so bad. I was a baby Christian and I was easily refuting him. He was just in the right place at the right time. Clean cut young dude, ladies are feeling him. And he was kind of feeling the ladies back, wasn't he?
Yeah. But at that point, that's when you started seeing key individuals gathered around him. It was, I think it was Reggie. There was a Lorenzo Renz, Jamar Milton, who was into Comedicism. Of course, the main ones that was there's Jamar Milton, and he's got his own big following. Then you had William Jones, who was one of the older individuals in the group. I think he's kind of still out there, but he may have backed up because I know he went through some surgery and stuff, and so he may have stopped. But you saw, I think his name is Ricky Swink. So it was like several individuals. They started forming this group under his Truth Factory, and they were called Born Winners. And they started doing these conferences where they was going to get everybody together. Yeah, Mo Jazz. It was like several people. They started doing these conferences. And so I even asked one time, I said, hey, if you come in the area, I'll show up, I'll sit there, I'll listen because I just want to know your worldview and how your worldview works. And Ricky Swink and William Jones like, yeah, let's come. Let him come. And then Kevin Wesley said, y'all invited him. I'm uninviting him, And he just went from there. So that's the type of stuff that was happening for a while.
Man, Reginald, do you remember who Kevin Wesley was learning under when he left the church? That's a question for you from the live chat.
And honestly, that was a question I asked him. In fact, there was part of the deal we were asking, can you at least show us a video of you preaching under the church, preaching at a church or evangelizing or doing anything, do something. And somewhere somebody said they remembered him at a church, and we were trying to pull that information up, but somehow he just stopped it. And I remember in one of his videos, he said, I'm not going to embarrass that church because the one thing I did tell them is that I'm not going to bring them up. I know that I've caused a lot of issues, so I don't want to do that. And I'm just like, all you do is just present a video. You don't even got to tell the name, just you preaching so we can hear, are you being biblically sound or whatever?
So your thing was, hey, not only is what you're saying false, but you're basing your platform and your authority off the idea that you're some kind of youth pastor, and you really weren't. Is that kind of? And then he said, well, he never said that.
Yeah.
What
and
did he say?
He was like, I never said that I was a youth pastor. He just said that I was it went from he was an ex-pastor, then it became he was an ex-youth pastor, then it became he was a minister in his church. So it always changed. And then he talked about how he would rap in the church and dance in the church. So it was always
okay. Yeah, gotcha. Well, I think people remember all this because, that was his whole thing. And all the videos would be titled, ex-pastor says such and such. Ted E. says, all these cultists like to say I was a Christian until I was introduced to the truth. That play is old now. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the questions we even, one of the questions I asked was, well, what was this thing you were introduced to that supposedly changed your mind? And I never got a straight answer. What you would often get is, here are some of the things that I read that I know Christians didn't read. Did you read about Gilgamesh? Did you read about these other stories that are similar to what's in the Bible that happened, supposedly centuries before? So those types of things we always get from them, but you never get an exact experience directly from him.
So a lot of the argumentation is real low level. It looks like barely formulated sentences. So this is one of his guys, Jamar Milton. Jesus fake, bruh, and I love you.
Yeah. And he actually had a whole shirt. And he may still have it. He had a whole shirt concept behind it that people just started buying because, again, when they got together as a group, everybody started saying, "Oh, we're going to start supporting and supporting and supporting." So they were key ones. In fact, this shirt that I have, I don't have it now, but it was a friend of mine that did the Lion and the Lamb, and they were like, "Look at this shirt. What kind of junk is that?" That type of stuff. But I told him, I said, "Hey, just like you use your clothing to try to explain your worldview, I do the same thing."
So did they try to get you to debate?
So actually, I asked to debate, and I said, "Hey, you know what? How about we get on? How about we have a conversation?" The first time it was going to be meeting Kevin, Wesley, and Callie Williams in a place in Atlanta. I actually did a video, said, "Hey, I'll meet with you guys." And as I'm getting ready, I remember some brothers called me and said, You said, "Look, bro, what are you doing?" And that was the first time, that I really sat down and said, "Okay, let me listen." And they're saying, like, "Look, if you're doing this out of anger or emotion or whatever, you're going to be right there with them. You really got to be led by the Spirit in doing this. And it's like, what is your real purpose of having that first debate? And so at that point, I backed down, and that's when everybody started seeing that he ran away. They did a video one time, I think, that went 3 straight hours with about the last 40 minutes of just ad hominems, ridicule, name calling. I mean, like just 40 minutes of it back to back to back. And
well, let me say this: Kevin Wesley and Jamar and whoever else out of the Truth Factory and what was that other thing? Born Winners. If any of you guys want to debate, Vocab Malone is here. If you don't want to debate me, I can host it on my platform. If you don't want to do that, we can reach out to people at House of Consciousness to make it happen there. So I think a debate would probably help these folks now because they kind of been out of the woodwork. They've been out of the limelight. Walsh even says Kevin Wesley kind of fell off the map. And
some things happened that pushed him off the map.
All right. Well, we'll talk about that in a second. We'll find out what things happened. How about that? We'll figure that out here in a little bit. But yeah, I mean, he's still around. He's still doing his stuff, though.
Yeah, he's talking more now. Well, if everybody remembers the guy, I think his name is Kevin Samuels.
He would give the advice.
Yeah. So he passed away, and all of a sudden you started seeing a similarity of what Kevin Wesley was doing, almost like he was going, like, I'm going to take over that. And then you saw he got into the poly marriage. And so a lot of people, he started becoming like a whole different thing. And you didn't see him deal with fighting against Christianity and stuff as much at that point. But the other people that was working with him, Callie Williams, William Jones.
Who's Chief Callie? Who's Truth?
That's Callie Williams, Chief Callie. Yeah, that's
okay. Yeah. So he wanted you to go live on a show.
Yeah, he wanted me to go live on a show, and his thing was it was not about debating, and that's one of the videos right there. It's not about debating. This is about, he wanted to say, if your God is real, y'all gonna get up here and pray. We're gonna bring some people that are amputees or that are deformed. You're gonna pray, and they're gonna change. And if that happens, then we'll believe. But other than that, we're not.
Did they say they were going to bring like any mentally retarded people up there and then you pray?
They were saying that.
Because if so, we could grab some Hebrew Israelites. You know what I mean? And they could be the test subjects. Hey, shout out to Alton Johnson. Alton Johnson is in the live chat. Everyone subscribe to his channel. Great brother, does great work. And shout out to Marlon Wilson. Currently on hiatus, but this is still our friend and our brother, and I still want you to subscribe to his channel because there's a ton of debates on there, and I want you guys to go ahead and check out those debates. Ted E says, I remember watching Sa Neter, Paul Polite, and Sarah Suit-N-Seti. Ted East, it's funny you said that. I'm trying to meet up with Sa Neter when I go to New York in February, and I'm trying to get one of those people, lesser known, more known, and do something live in his studio there in Harlem. That's my plan. I think Yondel's the only one who caught my little joke there. Cyberfor caught it too. Sorry, sometimes, I slip into the old man. So someone in the live chat. The live chat, by the way, you guys have been lazy lately. I used to ask you guys to do stuff like, hey, look this up or find this. And I don't just mean Nate. Nate and D-New, they do all the work. But some of the rest of you, go look at this channel right now. Truth Speaks with Chief Khalil. I don't know much about whatever. Can you tell me how many subs he's got? Is he active? Is he doing stuff? Is the channel still up? Someone go give me that information. I want to find out, and I want to know. I'm very curious about what he's got going on there. And help us out. We're going to do a little on-the-spot research. And so it'd be interesting. I would talk to any one of these guys. I would imagine it might be good for them because it could bring them back in the limelight a little bit, because I think they've kind of fallen out of the consciousness. And now that TikTok's down, they may even have less of a push, because I think they had some steam on TikTok, I think, right?
Yeah, well, it's not as much. From what I saw, and actually I wasn't really, looking for a lot. I think the only person that I saw on there was Callie Williams. I didn't see anything from Wesley. But then again, I think after all the chaos happened, that's when everybody, started kind of sticking with YouTube. Even if, as people go there on Truth for Callie Williams, you're going to also see that there was another one that he actually just did, another platform on YouTube that was just mostly my videos and a couple of other people.
Okay. D-New says she's still driving. D-New, I was saying not you, because everyone makes you do all the work. You and Nate do all the work. So go ahead and drive and drink a milkshake, whatever you need to do. I wasn't even trying to get you. I was trying to get some other people. Thank you. Alexander looks it up. He's still active with 6,000 subs. I'd be curious what his main platform is and what he's doing. So this says Dr. Reginald Wells is afraid to pray with Callie Williams. They call you doctor. You got a doctorate?
Yeah, I have a doctorate in biblical counseling.
Oh, okay. That's pretty cool. Man, I feel like I should be calling you Dr. Wells the whole time.
Hey, man, just Reggie. Just Reggie.
Dr. Reggie? Alexander says Chief Khalil made a video about Kevin Wesley 2 weeks ago. Oh, they're not buddies anymore?
No. I mean, not at all. Like that whole group is pretty much, so the kind of, this is what happened. I want to say right at the end of December was when it really hit, where I was like, okay, we're going to, either we're going to do this debate or we're going to get on and do this dialogue or whatever. And then I went into fasting for about 2 months, cut off all the social media, everything. So when I came back, I'm like, okay, let me look and see what's going on. And I go to my messenger and I got more. There it is. That's what sparked it.
That's the big one. Hold on real quick.
I got
someone
more
in the
than
live
almost-
chat. Hold on real quick. Sorry about that. Somebody said TikTok's back up. Oh, man, that's the worst news I heard all day. Is TikTok? It is?
Yeah.
Man,
I saw it pop back up about 1 o'clock on the dot, I think.
The world was a better place for that amount of hours. Kevin Wesley just made a video about Kylie yesterday. So this is like current stuff. These guys are going at each other, apparently. I ain't never seen a pastor that don't want to pray till I challenge all of them to pray with me and prove the ish works, Reginald Wells. The bastard probably using posts on his Facebook. Okay. So it looks like it's real low level. Their main thing is there's a talking snake, a talking donkey in the Bible, so you're stupid if you believe it. And we need to pray to heal some amputees, and if they don't get healed, then we win. Is that's the essence of their argument?
That's the essence of the argument, pretty much. And then you had those that were in the group that was, more of the science, more to the scientism, and some of them was in the humanism, but they didn't really understand it. They would just kind of say, "I'm a humanist," and then you'd go, "Okay, explain that." And by the time you finish, you're like, "No." So a lot of their whole thing is, again, they'd start with a claim, and then when they couldn't really substantiate their claim, then they would go to their last, ace. They thought was an ace in their whole deck.
What's an example, Dr. Wells, of a claim they would make?
So one of their biggest things was if God is, and this is a lot of this stuff is just based stuff that everybody hears. If God is real, then why is there so much evil in the world? Why about all these children that are born deformed? You know,
Okay.
that would be one of their things. God can't be real if this is happening. Or you would get and that was the issue as you had posted the other one earlier of, if your God is so good and everything else, then what about your people that follow him who are hurting people in churches and trauma and everything else? So that was always their whole premise, was to go, look, here is this stuff. You can't say that you have a living God and he's good because this stuff is happening.
Kanina Johnson, you know who that is?
Yeah, she's, I don't know if they're even doing anything now, but I know at that time, again, that group, they were all connected. She was in, there's another one, DeWanda Pickney. So there was several black atheist females that were in there. She was one of them.
Well, interesting. Good point, Nate. Shout out to Nate2D2. Alexander says, my favorite questions for guys like this: what evidence would convince you of the God who says you already have enough evidence? Didn't you? Yeah, you thought you mentioned something like that, where at one point one of them said that they would believe in God if they got enough evidence, but then one of them later on said, no, if they found out God was real, they would confront him about all the ways he messed up. What was that? I don't remember if you said that on the show, or if you said, was that before we started?
Well, that was before we started. And
yeah, tell people that, please.
Yeah, it was Kelly Williams.
Looks like you're driving to Macon when you took the screenshot, by the way. But go ahead.
So I actually came up to a light and somebody sent me these, and I went, hold on, let me pull over. And I'm pulling over. I said, I got to get gas anyway. And I'm looking like, are you serious? So I ended up just saying, you know what, click. Let me try to deal with this when I get home. Callie Williams did a video with a guy because he started doing these series of videos where he would say, I want Christians to come on my platform and pray, and let's see what happens. And the sad part about it was you saw people going to the platform. So eventually this guy got up there and said, look, I'm not going to pray, but I just got to ask you a question. He said, if God was real, would you believe in him? And he said, you know what? He said, no, I wouldn't. He said, I would actually say, oh, you are real. And this word verbatim, this is the one that stuck to me in my brain, because I said, he can't be the only one that thinks like this. He said, if I saw God and I found out he was real, I would tell him, have a seat. I was like, and the guy was like, for real? He was like, yeah. He says, because your God is an a-hole. And I'm going to ask him a bunch of questions and confront him about what he hasn't done. And I just said, he's not the only one. Sad part about it, he's not the only one that thinks this way.
They're gonna put God on the hot seat, huh?
Yeah. That was their whole thing. They started, the problem, Vocab, was they started running out of claims that they can show, hey, this guy doesn't exist, this guy can be real. And when that happened, this was their go-to. You Christians are supposed to, in fact, one of them said, the word says you're supposed to do more than Christ. Jesus said you'll do more than him that he did on this earth. So if he's healing people and raising people from the dead, why can't y'all do it?
So it looks like mainly these guys actually don't want to discuss anything. They just want to do this parlor trick of, you got to be able to order God around with your prayers. Yeah. Okay, I see what's going on. That's Alexander says, Kevin used to talk a lot about Christian infighting. Must be okay when his group does it. Yeah, fascinating. Symbol of Peace says, homie kind of look like Cole from Martin. I think they're talking about you, brother. You ever got that before?
No, not at all. That's a first.
Well, I don't know. I don't know what these people are on. Crazy, man. These people give an account for every careless word they speak. Hey, good word, Yondell. That's exactly right. And, you know, the scripture says that every mouth will be stopped. You know, people aren't going to be going in God's face and challenging him and telling him this and that. It's going to be evidently clear. And that little bit of fear you've ever had if you've ever been in court when you're before the judge, even if you know you aren't guilty, imagine how much worse it is when you're before the God of the universe and you know you're guilty, because you're going to recognize his power, his authority, and his wisdom, and you're not going to be having a chat. It's just, that's not going to be the case. You know, people don't know who they are and they don't know who God is. So yeah, it's just the same old song. It looks like the same old thing. So what did you want to debate them on then, brother?
Honestly, I just again wanted to debate them on the whole worldview of how does your worldview seem to be better when dealing with answers to origin of man, purpose, morality, destiny. I just want to know your basic views on that. And every time that would be presented, it was, I don't care about that. I just want to see if you're going to pray and if somebody's going to be healed or if, somebody's going to get money and no longer be poor. That was just the same answer every single time.
Okay.
And I see some of these names that I had forgotten about, and I see these names on there, and I'm going, oh boy, things have changed now.
Well, after I show this last one, there's only 2 left.
Yeah.
I want you to tell us an update on Kevin Wesley and his crew.
Wow.
Yeah, so this is all. Did they ever do the live stream, by the way, that they're talking about? Did they do it without you or something?
No. They did. They actually did it without me, and they actually did several. They did several without me. There's one there sitting outside. There's one. Then there's a couple there sitting in a car. And then, like almost a couple of weeks later, you have another one. That was the one that I was telling you that the 40 minutes afterwards is nothing but ad hominems and all kind of crazy stuff. So, yeah.
Okay, so I want to flip back over to this. I'm going to read a couple live chat comments, and then I need you to give us an update before we move on to our next topic. Shout out again to the live chat, and got a couple different things here from the live chat. Funny, JJ Soul. If God doesn't exist, then who is Jesus' dad? Akala says, I don't know any of these people that you're talking about. Well, hey, don't feel bad, Akala. These are urban apologetic issues from a previous time, because by and large these people have sort of fallen out of the limelight, and so you don't hear about them as much. In fact, Walsh earlier had said Kevin Wesley kind of fell off the map. What exactly happened to Kevin Wesley? Where'd he go? What's up?
So, like I said, did the fast 2 months, got back on. I get more than 30 messages on my messenger. I'm like, what is going on? And I look, and it's everyone who was doing all the ridiculing and everything else. And I'm going like, okay, now they found my messenger, so they're going crazy on this. And then the first 4 I read, it says, hey, did you see what happened to Kevin Wesley? I'm like, what?
When was this, by the way, Reggie?
This was, I want to say this was right at maybe 2018, 2019.
All right.
Right around that 5th, 6th year. So, and that just lets y'all know how long this stuff had been going on.
Right.
But I said, okay, let me back up. So I'm starting to read, and it's somebody, his IT guy. He used to have an IT guy that was do his stuff. He's doing his podcast and his lives and stuff. So that guy sent me a video, and the video he sent, I'm looking at it, and the first thing that came in my mind was, these guys are in trouble. And so and I'm going to change it up so to protect you and protect even protecting Kevin Wesley, even though right now there's enough stuff on there that he couldn't protect himself to save his life. There were some things that supposedly there was some issues with money. And there were some questions that were brought before him as to all this money that he supposedly collected, where he said he was going to use it in the community and create these things for children and families. Where did it go? So apparently there was some major arguments that came up, and now it became a thing of back and forth, who said what, and it got so bad that his Born Winners, that group split up. There was something that happened between him and children and Callie Williams that got so bad that there was like, you could probably count at least 25 videos now of just them going back and forth and attacking each other. And I sat there and thought like, man, out of all of this stuff that's been going on, they're literally supposed to be the big unit, and come to find out that they were the ones that were just fighting with each other the most. And it was just sad that this was going on. So I ended up there was a situation that happened that I saw Kevin Wesley say, and I ended up communicating with Callie Williams and said, look, I understand we got differences and anything else, but you honestly need to go back and look at what's going on, because this is going to affect you and your family. And I said, I'm saying this as just someone who cares about you. And from that point, it looked like wherever Kevin Wesley was at, he was living somewhere. He ended up having to leave there. He lost like almost all of his supporters. There was a lot of family. It was just like God literally just came in here and just said, "All right, let me deal with this," and just stirred that hornet's nest. Nobody survived.
Well, isn't his big thing now just to promote polygamy or something like that?
Pretty much that, and then of course, like I said, it's almost like he like at one point tried to replace Kevin Samuels, but it didn't really work out. So
Like last time I saw his social media, I just remember him with a bunch of women in all the pictures. So I feel like that's and like staring at people and opening his shirt with his tattoo. Really kind of weird stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that's been pretty much it. And like I think every blue moon he may get into the whole thing of, this is why religion is wrong, some basic stuff, but then he'll go right back into that. But again, because he's created so many enemies, I think right now he's just really not being as effective as he used to.
Well, that's good. Now, there was some weird stuff that went down with him and former NBA star Dwight Howard.
Oh yeah, and I think it's still some stuff. And there's a lot of videos that are out there now, and you can literally just type in Kevin Wesley, Dwight Howard, and you'll see some stuff come up. And I ended up watching one of the videos, just sat there and watched it to say like, okay, what's going on? What's happening? I had to stop it because I was like, I hope this isn't true because it's gonna really affect some people and their families.
You think he's about to get diddied?
It might be more than that.
Well, what's more than Diddy? Epstein?
Yeah. It sounded like it was heading in that direction.
R. Kelly?
I think Epstein level.
Epstein level, okay.
Yeah, honestly,
Nature Boy? Nature Boy?
Nah, I wouldn't put him in that. there was
as bad as Epstein, but not as bad as Nature Boy. Okay.
Yeah, there's one video where they really talk about this night at Dwight Howard's house, and that's the video that has gotten a lot of people in trouble because apparently there was some drug use and some other things that happened. And this is what it sounds like they've been fighting for about 2 years now to say, no, this is true, no, this isn't true, and it just goes back and forth. So there's a lot of stuff that's out there now that honestly they don't even have time to try to fight against the kingdom of God. They got their own issues they got to deal with.
Might have to fight against the legal machine.
Yeah, it's going to happen. Just based on what I've seen recently, it's going to happen.
Last two questions. Does the name Dr. Ray Higgins ring a bell? That's the guy Kevin was promoting when he first went viral.
So even before I was dealing with Kevin Wesley, I had a question for Ray Higgins on one of his videos that he did live. And if a lot of people know, Dr. Ray Higgins is doctor because he has a doctorate in biblical counseling. And so I said, I find it interesting that you say that all of the things in the biblical text aren't true, but you will keep that doctorate, even though it's a doctorate in biblical counseling. Why not just get rid of it if you say you don't believe it? Why keep the doctorate part? Never got an answer. In fact, I think I got blocked because I asked that question based on that live, if I can remember.
Tyler says he went the Ray Hagan, Billy Carson route. Is Ray Hagan still around? I remember when I first was talking to Adam Coleman, that was one of the first guys he dealt with and went after. Is he fallen off as much, or what's up with him?
No, I think right now because, I think he still has the organization here in Atlanta that he comes down to. And if you go, for everybody that's from this area, West End, where you have the Shrine of the Black Madonna, I think he still does things there as well. So he's still I think now he's just kind of has his group and he's just trying to focus there. He isn't as much trying to reach out like he used to, 5 years ago. I think now he's just kind of like, all right, let me back off and I'll just stick with who's going to follow me. So.
All right, when we come back, we're going to discuss our next topic with Dr. Reginald Wells, IUIC Atlanta. He's had a lot of experience with them. Play a brief commercial. Don't go anywhere. Street Apologist Live. All right, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Street Apologist Live. This is the show where we serve the underserved and look into the overlooked. I'm your host, Vocab Malone. Please hit that like button if you have not already done so. Please drop a comment in the live chat. Let us know your name and where you're from if you have not already done so. And, of course, subscribe to the daggone channel. It is free, so why wouldn't you want to do that? All right, Dr. Reginald Wells back in the house. How did you first get involved with IUIC Atlanta shenanigans?
Oh man, if you're from Atlanta, you remember Underground Atlanta. And when I first moved here from South Georgia, the church that I was attending was literally at least about 5-6 blocks away from Underground. You could literally walk down there. And
Tell people a little bit about Underground. Tell them a little bit about that real quick.
So Underground Atlanta is a place where you had a lot of restaurants, some little stores. You had some major stores down there like Foot Locker and some other things down there. But most of the time you would have more of your bands. Sometimes you would have some nights where they may do some special events. But it's pretty close to the downtown Atlanta area. Like you can go, like then it was Phillips Arena. You had the Georgia Aquarium and so forth. So that was kind of the main point that everyone would meet at. But there, it was also located at what they call little 5 points. And so every Black mystery religion had their own little corner. Here's the Nawabians here, the Nation of Islam, ISUBK, IUIC Atlanta, and so forth. At that time, and my first run-in with them was when they used to be a little corner store that they would sell your shoes and your hoodies and stuff, and they would always be on the other side of that store. So the first time I encountered them was actually this guy gave me a flyer, and I'm reading through it. Now it's got to be maybe 15 years ago now, and I'm reading through this flyer, and even at that time as I'm growing in the faith, I'm going, this doesn't make sense. And so I ended up just trying to read as much as I could on it. And at that time, there wasn't a lot of people that had a lot of information out there. So when I went back, I had key questions to ask these guys. They wouldn't answer the questions because for some reason, all of a sudden it was, if you want to, something about it, the guy that was there, he had kind of almost like a Jamaican accent. If you wanted to, talk about the church, why did you go back to church? And I'm going, asking basic questions. And so at that point, I remember taking the flyer, following it up, and I was walking away. I remember somebody saying, that's the problem. And, our Black men are doing this. And that stuck with me. And I just said, let me learn more about these guys. And it went from there, including, Ancient Saints Radio.
Well, explain people what Patient Saints Radio is. Because, this is like insider stuff. So everyone, if you haven't been able to tell, we're transitioning from talking about Kevin Wesley, although I'd still like to debate him or any of his cronies, either here on a neutral platform. But we're moving on to now discussing Hebrew Israelites, because the first thing was more sort of in the atheistic, new agey, conscious community, nonsense, low-level skeptic stuff. But now we're going to talk about IUIC Atlanta. And real quick, I see an interesting comment I want to comment on from Aquila. Says, never heard of IUIC before, looked him up. It's crazy how all these factions claim to be the true Israel, and their goal is to wake up the 144,000, but all have way more than 144,000 followers. Well, when you combine them all, you may. Of course, that's true. Yes, you're right about that, but not individually they wouldn't. And then Aquila says, I'm in San Diego. That's also probably why I don't know about any of these goings on. Well, that's interesting you say that, Aquila, because IUIC does have a school in El Cajon. And I know because I visited there before, and I did a video on the outside of it, and they called the cops on me. And fortunately, I was driving away right when it happened, so I didn't have to deal with the cops. And there's a famous video we've done. Maybe Nate can drop the link where it's IUIC Peekaboo or IUICU or something like that. So what's the deal with Patient Saints Radio and its relationship to IUIC, Reginald?
So Patient Saints Radio is kind of the think tank for
Think tank? Oh man, you're being really complimentary here.
Okay, I forgot to put my fingers up here. So
how about a PR arm? But go ahead. If you want to call them think tank, hey, go ahead. I don't want to
echo chamber. They're echo chamber of silliness. Their main headquarters here in Atlanta is in it should be still in Riverdale, Georgia. And when you go there, it's almost like they can literally feel something is out there that shouldn't be out there, because you would just see curtains move as soon as you walk toward it.
Hey, that's what happened to me. You did that too, because that's what I was saying.
Like,
The guy peeked through the window. You see these little fingers and an eyeball, and I'm not exaggerating. And it was the funniest thing, because they were doing this the whole time, and John McCrae just started laughing. We weren't knocking on the door. We weren't on their property. We were on the sidewalk doing a Bible study. Obviously, it was about them. We were recording, but there's only 3 of us, and they're doing it. So the same thing happened to you. It was like that whole. If you guys remember in Star Wars: A New Hope, and when the Millennium Falcon gets pulled into the Death Star, and they're hiding they're in the cargo bay or whatever, and they're hiding in the smuggling chambers Han Solo has, and Darth Vader goes up to it and he goes,
"I sense something, a presence I haven't felt since."
And then he stops. He doesn't finish his sentence, and he's thinking like, "This is Obi-Wan Kenobi, my former master," you know. And so you're saying they got that Force sensitivity, looking out the window, knowing.
Because literally, as soon as I start walking, you start seeing stuff moving. You're like, what is going on? Like, are they looking? Did they know I'm somebody new or what? But then I ended up.
Your lack of faith disturbing.
Sorry, I just had to play that one time.
Your lack of faith disturbing.
And so it's crazy, because I didn't even realize that they were there until sometimes you could be looking for something on your phone, and then it kind of gives you information, and you went, wait a minute, headquarters. And I said, they're right there. So that's what made me kind of go like, let me go over here and see what's going on. And so, they do their stuff on Saturdays, and all of a sudden, I don't know if they were looking like to see, like, is this somebody trying to be nosy or what's going on? Because, I mean, I wasn't nobody to know, but that's what they do. They kind of doing this the whole time. So it was just an interesting thing. But Patient Saints Radio, like I said, is their echo chamber, is their, I don't know I can't think of any positive things to say about that thing at all. But it's just mainly where they get on there, and this is where they do a lot of their reporting on current events and churches, or they'll pick a particular topic and just kind of poison the well, ad hominems, whatever you can do, that's what they're going to go for.
Did they ever cover you on there?
Oh, yeah. Actually, they did this twice. There's one video where they took one of my videos, and they ended up, how they love to call Black Christian males effeminate. So the whole time that was that video, and then I actually got on there live one time.
Oh yeah.
And so when I tried to get on live and ask them questions, the whole time you're asking questions, you got 3 that's over talking you, and then I heard someone say, "Hey, that's one of those guys," and that's when they started doing a lot of the muting and everything else. And I'll be honest with you, I got frustrated, because it was just like, yo, you're telling people to ask questions, but you don't want to give them the opportunity to do that. And I learned a lesson that day: just don't get in the trap.
Wait, can you say that again? The last thing you learned?
I said the lesson I learned that day was don't get in the trap.
It's a trap!
You might have to be like Admiral Akbar.
It's a trap!
Okay, so have you had a lot of face-to-face encounters with IUIC Atlanta, Reginald?
Not here, because one of the things I've noticed, at one point they used to have key places that they would be located. This is something that I've understood with them. Now that they realize that a lot of Christians, especially Christian apologists, are going out and they're learning more and looking for them, they're starting to move that location, and they move it as much as possible. Now they'll tell you, "Oh, we're going out to the highways and the byways as the Bible says." But honestly, the big thing is happening now that a lot of folks are looking for them. And after that last video with the pastor who went to Detroit that we talked with the other day, after that video, I think the mandate was, "Hey, don't y'all stay in one spot, because they'll come looking for you."
Okay. Well, we just ended our poll. I asked the audience if they had ever seen a Kevin Wesley video. 79% said they had never seen a Kevin Wesley video. Fascinating. So I started a new poll now, asking people if they've ever heard of Patient Saints Radio. So what are some of the videos you did, Reginald, about IUIC? I remember you had one that was something like Devil Comes Down to Georgia or something like that.
Yeah, so I ended up actually taking because there's several. Well, actually, it's interesting because here you have IUIC Atlanta, and then it used to be IUIC Macon. And so if you come to Georgia, you've got Atlanta, then you have this main highway that's called 316 441. It goes through the major cities and small towns, because of transportation, trucks, and other things. So they've got IUIC at Middle Georgia, and then you have what is called IUIC Tallahassee, but they go into your smaller towns at the bottom of Georgia, Cairo, Thomasville, and so forth. So I ended up doing a video, and I just said, let's listen to some of the so-called teachings from these groups that are going into these small towns, because what they're doing is they're going after their members that are joining them and saying, hey, our church doesn't teach this. So they're like, okay, that's an easy church to go after, or that's an easy area to go into because that church is not doing anything. And so I started addressing that, and that's when you started getting a lot of them saying, wait a minute, that's not true. What he's saying, don't y'all listen to him. Hey, don't y'all do this, don't y'all do that. It's Julius Reinhardt. He remembers that.
Oh,
So,
you guys know each other?
yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
because I saw it says.
In fact, it was Julius, going back to the Kevin Wesley thing when I was getting ready to go debate him. It was Julius Reinhardt that pulled me to the side and said, don't do that. And had a long talk with me. So, I always told him I thank him for that because I don't know what would have happened if I would have did it. But yeah, that's what I did the video on, dealing with IUIC and just dealing with all of those Atlanta and Georgia groups.
I'm going to your channel right now, everyone, which is Immersion, Reginald Wells Immersion, Reginald Wells 67 Immersion. And you've got 100 questions for IUIC. Actually, you know what? Let me put this on the. I'm gonna see if I can put this on the screen. Would you, or do you think you're gonna do more stuff with them? Like, because it seems like you've interacted with them in the past. But what about coming up here? Do you think you'll do more stuff with them or interact with them again?
Yeah, honestly, that's one of the things that I really want to do, because now, as I've talked with you before, the whole platform is about helping Christian youth and young adults to know how to answer those questions, those big questions, as far as dealing with possible dialogues with individuals like this. What happens if you come up on what they call the Beltline here in Atlanta, where you got all the restaurants and the big stores, and you see Sakari and IUIC out there? What do you do if they ask you, a particular question? How do you address it? I want to be able to do that. There's been times where I say, you know what, maybe I need to just take a little trip to the Beltline, or to, Patient Saints Radio. They always put their stuff up there. Maybe this time get on there, and this time we can remain calm and just have a nice little dialogue and ask a question. Now, are they going to answer them? Probably not. So, because that's what they do.
Okay, so here we are, Reginald. I'm bringing up your YouTube page, looking to see what videos you got on IUIC here. It's kind of interesting here. We're going to take a look at some of these. We got 100 questions for IUIC, a call to the Hebrew Israelite community. That sounds like an interesting video. I might have to watch that one. It looks like, did you have BK and all those guys on that one?
Yeah, that's when the group that I'm in, Cross Media, with Jim Green, Jesse Walsh, BK's on there. There's a lot of group that, we've gotten together and just said, hey, let's have this conversation. And that night we said, we've got questions. And we even invited, the heads of IUIC. I especially invited the heads of IUIC Atlanta. Of course, nobody showed up, but, we still posted those questions out there.
And then we got, does IUIC Atlanta preach God's true gospel? What's the answer? What's the answer to that question?
Nope.
Then we got IUIC blitzing churches on Christmas Day.
Yeah. That was happening here, and I overheard something on a class that we were talking about going to some churches here in Georgia, and I said, if they do this, why don't you ask them these questions? Let's see what happens.
The deception of
That's
IUIC.
the video there, Patient Saints Radio, when I ended up getting on there, and they just had a field day.
Look at this one, everyone. 10 years ago.
Yeah.
Reginald
I didn't have gray hair at that time.
Yeah, I mean, we all look a little bit different, but that's all right. 10 years ago, This man is dropping videos way before a lot of people was involved with this at all. 487 comments. Fascinating. I mean, you were one of the oldest. You were like one of the first people on here doing stuff, I think.
I didn't think so.
Well, how many YouTube videos were there about Hebrew Israelites when you dropped this? Probably not that many.
I counted maybe 8 from what I counted. Now, again,
Okay.
maybe 8 that I saw. Some people like maybe not really getting into the some of those videos didn't really get into the deep issues. A lot of them were more like questions and type things. I think that was pretty much it.
Warning, predominantly black churches. Info from British Israelism. Okay, yeah, you do across media.
Yeah.
And you got good amount. It seems like IUIC Atlanta. Oh, I see you got something on Sakari Atlanta too, huh?
Yeah. And that was the biggest thing because I'm here in Georgia and I just prayed about it. And, it's like just deal with the things of Georgia. And it's not a knock. I don't ever want to do this because, of course, these are brothers and sisters, but you just have a lot of people just aren't equipped. And a lot of it isn't even meeting people on the streets. These are family members. These are relatives that are coming to, hey, if we're going to watch the game at home, and all of a sudden they start talking about this stuff, or they're at the family reunion, they start talking about this stuff. How do you deal with it? How many times I've heard people going to the shibbla bubbla thing, and they're just like, I'm just going to, pray about it, and I'm going to speak in tongues and just scare you away. And they looking at them like, this is all you got. So whereas the young people are listening to them going, that does make a little sense, and that's part of the problem. So
have you had any conversations or success or input? It could be small, it could be little. It doesn't, with ministries in Georgia about this, these types of things.
Like I said, one of the things that I do is train youth and young adult ministers and churches. And so part of the thing that I would often bring up is just how do you have those conversations? And I remember when I used to attend a church here in Atlanta, at that point, I started talking to them about it. And they were saying, well, it's not such a big issue at this moment. They wanted to focus on other things. About a year or so later, I get a call, and it was doing a youth convention from that particular denomination. And it was saying, hey, I think we really want to bring you in along with some other people to really talk about this, because some people are starting to have some events, not just people come to their churches, but their family members. And I remember one mother that came to me directly in a church one time and said, my daughter no longer wants to deal with us. She no longer wants to come to the church. She doesn't want to come home. Even our tradition of getting together on Christmas, she don't want to do that. And I remember saying, let's just have a conversation. And as they started describing things, I said, okay, she's in the One West Hebrew Israelism. And so I gave some information to the parents. And about a month later, the daughter ended up talking to the parents and saying she wants out because she didn't realize how deep that rabbit hole went. And so they ended up literally having to call the police on the guy that she was kind of connected with, that was kind of almost like saying, well, you can't get out, almost like a gang thing. So, but they was able to, help her out. And I'm kind of switching the story up a little bit to kind of protect her. So they was able to help the situation. So, but that type of thing was happening where people just wanted to know information about who is this, who's IUIC, who's Sakari, why is it that it seems like it's attracting more young people than anything else, those types of things.
We're going to come right back and talk about that exact issue that you just dropped, apologetics and the youth, one of your other specialties you discuss frequently, how to prevent this kind of thing from happening. You're talking about how to pass on apologetics to the next generation. I'm looking forward to it. Don't go anywhere. Street Apologist with Reginald Wells. And shout out to J Soul for the super.
How you doing, everybody? Michael Williams from Linehouse Publishing, Judah Nation Radio. I'll tell you about a book that we just helped print and publish. The Barack Obama versus the Black Hebrew Israelites. It's written by one of my friends, Vocab Malone. Vocab has done a great job of going through and presenting almost like an introductory manual to the Black Hebrew Israelite religion, and also giving you some talking points from scripture. This is a great book for you guys to read. If you guys are not familiar with the Black Hebrew Israelite movement, it's a movement that is sweeping its way through a lot of urban churches, as well as a lot of urban ministries. We are called to, at all costs, preach the word, defend the gospel by counteracting. Get the book if you're into apologetics. Get the book if you're into defending the gospel, and also if you're involved in any type of urban ministry where you see this going around, get informed about it so that you can really counteract it by having a little bit of knowledge before it, because you can't argue against something that you don't know about. Now, so you definitely want to get this. It's about 140 pages. I admonish you guys to get this book. You can order it at the website listed below. You can also look at Vocab Malone on all of the social media networks. Purchase the book. It's a great price.
Man, I hate these stuff. We're back on Street Apologist Live. Sunday special, talking about Kevin Wesley. Any of you guys from the Wesley squad, pastor, president, want to debate, hit me up. And then we talked about IUIC Atlanta and their patient saints. Jay Soul, the super chat, thank you. I think that's the second of today, you and Yondell. Looks like everybody who's given a super chat is from Vegas. Says, I've had combos with BHI at my job in Las Vegas. Oh, interesting. I'd love to hear about those sometime. I bet those were interesting. These streams help break down what they believe. Well, praise God. That's actually really good to hear, really encouraging. And I hope you're encouraged today by what you hear. Shout out to you and all the super chatters. Now, coming back to today's guest, Reginald Wells-IMMERSION. You definitely want to subscribe to his content. Final thing is something that you're quite passionate about. Let's get on this. It's how to pass apologetics on to the next generation with apologetics discipleship. Tell us about it, brother.
So one of the things that I got out of all of this, and even listening to you, Vocab, Dr. Eric Mason, Nate 2D2, man, there's so many people I listen to. I keep getting a thing. I said, a lot of individuals are going to churches, there's conferences, they're doing these things, but I'm going like, what's happening at home when, the videos are turned off and when, the church services are over, and I'm going like, especially within the Black community or predominantly Black Christian churches, what's happening? And so I started looking for information out there that says, okay, from an evangelistic standpoint and especially an apologetic standpoint, like urban apologetics, who's helping youth and how do we do that? And when we're still having people talk about how to help just the Christian family as a whole, the roles that the father and the mother do, like what's going on when it comes to young people and their ability to say why they believe what they believe, because they're already getting, the issues of where you only believe because your mom and daddy go to such church or your dad is pastor or your mom's pastor. That's the only reason you believe. And so I was a youth pastor at a church, Total Renewal Church of God, for about 7 years. And that was one of those things that I kept picking up on over and over again was parents that would come to me and say, yeah, they come here, they're getting good information, but a lot of them would say, I can't answer those questions that they're starting to ask me, especially when the pandemic hit. And, sad to say, a lot of these churches at that time just kind of stopped, but it didn't stop everybody else. It didn't stop all the Kevin Wesleys and the Callie Williams and the Sinettas. It didn't stop there. In fact, their video production went up more. IUIC went up more. So a lot of the youth that came out of that pandemic or during that time, they started bringing information to the Bible studies and everything else that's got the youth pastors and young adult pastors with their eyes wide open trying to figure out, how do we deal with it? And so that was the biggest thing, is how to help young people to really get into the word, especially when it comes to discipleship. That's one of those issues, I think, within our Christian Black families, that their push for discipleship, they're hoping we get discipled by the pastor instead of, no, you as the parent should be discipling. In fact, the scriptures clearly from the Old Testament to the New says, this is you. You're the one that's supposed to be pastoring. Not pastoring, but discipling. You're the one that's supposed to be raising your children up. You're the one supposed to do that. The church, honestly, is just more of your support. But guess what? When that 2-hour, 3-hour service is over with, what's happening in the next 20 some hours? And that was something that I really want to help, families with.
That's good information. My question is, since that's a passion of yours, and you said you wanted to help families with that, right?
Mm-hmm. Uh-oh. Can't hear you.
Come up with maybe what programs have you seen be effective? What are some tips and tricks you've learned about passing on apologetics to the next generation? Because I agree, that's a very important topic.
I think the key thing is to come from a Christ-centric standpoint. I've seen too many people try to approach it from more of an ethno-type thing is, hey, find yourself in it, which some of that is important. But what I've noticed, some of the best programs, some of the best approaches has always been equipping the parents first. And yes, every family doesn't have mom and dad there together. But if you are able to literally help the parent and saying, how can I help you to help your child understand the why of what you believe? That's always very key. I will be honest with you. When you have more of your multi-ethnic churches and more of your Christian Caucasian brothers and sisters, when I've gone to those churches, I've seen those programs and I've listened to them. And the biggest thing that I always see is the push for the parent or the guardian or the grandparent. That's their biggest thing. In fact, the church I attend, which is Westgate Church here, the parent baptizes the child. I baptized my daughter about 2 months ago, and that's the pastor push. He's like, you as the father are the one that should be discipling your family and especially your children. And when it comes to apologetics, there are key books out there. Second thing that I think that's very important, mentioning books, you got to be able to find those key tools, those books that really can give good information about the gospel, the character of God, the relationship of man to God, dealing with sin, and how do you as a parent can take that book. Because guess what? Some books, I'm looking at one right now. Imagine coming to your child and saying, hey, we're going to learn about apologetics, and you bring this big monster out. That's immediately you've lost that child. They're like, no, I'm not reading that. But how do you take that information and go as the parent, all right, I've read this, I've read Vocab's book. Now, how do I have that conversation?
So what I'm hearing is the answer to apologetics questions is I've read Vocab's book. So,
well,
I'm just kidding. I'm just teasing you.
I know. But it's so important. I think the other thing, too, is a lot of times what I've seen that really works for youth and young adults is also saying that your world as a Christian is not limited to that four walls called a church. Your world expands beyond that. Going to the school, going to the basketball game, when you meet your friends and y'all are playing video games. I mean, I've had some young people say that they have literally talked about Christ while playing Call of Duty, and just having a whole conversation, got off the game and they kept the conversation going. And the parents saying it was because we sat down and we really had that conversation. And they learned that their walk in Christ is not just tied to my youth group and the 1 year convention. Everybody knows me when I use that term graham cracker Jesus. That's pizza Jesus, where, bring the food. Let's do the David and Goliath Bible story. Let's sing a song and then send them home. That's not that's not evangelism. That's not discipleship. That's so minuscule. You have to be able to, again, what are those tools? Effective Bible study. How do you do that? Other tools outside of that. Guess what? There are books outside of that you can read that's going to bring you back to the Bible. But the biggest thing is connecting with your family and then connecting with other like-minded people like yourself. And so it helps those young people to grow. I wish I would have had that growing up, because I would have dealt with the self-esteem issues and stuff that I went through. Right. And it's interesting that as a youth pastor, a lot of the things that I would see those same thing with young people and know how to approach that. But the first thing I always do is go back to the parent and say, hey, let me talk to you about your child. Right. Not in the sense of I know more, but I'm here to work with you.
That's good. That's good. Yondell says that was him. He was the one playing COD. Or COD, I guess is how they say it. My bad. Symbol of Peace. He calls it Disney Jesus. So yeah, we know what it's talking about. All right. J Soul says Vocab needs to make his book in audio format. You're actually right. I do need to. I need some help doing that, but you are right. I 100% agree. Live chat. If you got any questions for Reginald, go ahead, give me a Q and a question mark and send it to him my way, and we will read it. Thank you, live chat, for being active and involved here, Street Apologist. And what do you have coming up? Hopes, dreams, prayers that you would like to see in 2025, personal, public, all that.
Is that for me?
Oh, that's for you.
Oh, okay. I really, I've had a project of getting back into strengthening immersion and really bringing in some more tools to again help parents. I would love to get back into just training more churches, because now with IUIC, whether it's Sakari, really you're seeing more growing Black atheists and so forth, and I'm starting to hear more of these conversations, and it isn't just those other Black mystery religion or non-belief. You're starting to see false teachings that are creeping in the church, and a lot of young people going, this don't sound right. They're starting to have those conversations. Hey, this guy here said this, but I'm reading this Bible and it doesn't make sense. So now it's time to start having conversations about how do you help young people to recognize when that's not right and how to approach it. We still got to deal with the trauma that's going on in churches. So one of the things with my private practice, I'm still working with a lot of people that have dealt with what they deem as religious trauma and helping them to understand the difference. So a lot of that's going to be going on in 2025 this year. So,
all right, and we know you work a lot with other apologists. Who are some of the people who are some of the people you work with?
Man, I've got a couple of people here. Jim Green, I know he's actually doing a live now. Jesse Walsh, who's on the Reassembling. I've got Jude, my man Jude, who's now got a combination of things. He's actually doing the video games and then also doing a lot of the apologetics while he's playing. There's so many names out there that there's so many flashing through my head right now. I'm kind of getting them even mixed up. But Cross Media is the one group that I've been a part of, and now I've been a part of that group for about 2 years. It's about 20 active people. It's 40 there, but it's 20 active that are constantly, putting some stuff and information out there. BK Apologist, of course, he's got his thing and everything else, but man, it's a lot of stuff out there. So
a lot of great folks you just mentioned, and everyone needs to subscribe to them all. And there's BK pops up, and he says, Keela says, Pastor Wells, I missed it earlier. What tradition are you ordained in? Is it Kojic?
No. Actually, if anyone knows Church of God in Christ, which is actually, you have two sides of that. There's Anderson, Indiana, but now it's non-denominational. So biggest thing, however, is just really learning that, again, more the denominations makes it more comfortable for people to do certain things, but in reality, it's just more kingdom and just understanding that. So Kojic, don't really know a lot about it.
So your Church of God, Anderson, Indiana?
No, not now. I used to be. Okay. Actually, the Church of Westgate, he don't really have a denomination tied to it at all. So.
Oh, okay. Well, so you're at a non-denominational church, then you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, that's awesome. How do people find your content online? We've given out the YouTube channel. What else should they look at?
Well, Facebook, you can literally just type in Immersion and Immersion Youth and Young Adult, and you'll see that on Facebook. At last, it was TikTok, but that's gone, and now it's back. So, and I told you the interesting story behind that was gathering followers, was doing some work, got into a live with some Black atheists. They didn't like the question I asked. The next day, I was banned off of TikTok and had to restart. So, but yeah, right now, YouTube and Facebook at this moment. So.
No doubt. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to end with a fantastic song by my guy from Columbus, Ohio, B. Moses. Urban Apologetics song. Everyone should check out his music, his content. He just dropped one that's actually about Ohio State because they're playing in the big game Monday, National College Championship. And so in honor of all that, play this song by B. Moses. God bless y'all, and I'll see y'all tomorrow. Got more content coming at you. And hey, remember everyone, tomorrow is MLK Day. It is tomorrow. Don't forget. And don't forget that in I Have a Dream speech, he referenced 4 different Bible verses specifically. And so y'all have a good one. God bless. Thank you, Reginald Wells. We'll text and talk later. God bless. No doubt. Peace out. Talk to y'all later.
Following nothing, the scriptures have spoken.